Hi, my name is Tony Berard. I don't have a production crew. uh, this video is going to be on the World Cup that recently took place. It was won by Sergei Karjakin, and he is one of the uh, competitors right now in the World Chess Championship that's going on. Last time I checked, they were at they had completed 10 games, and it was tied. So the match is scheduled for 12 games, and so, but this was how this tournament was how Sergei Karjakin uh, got his entry into the candidates tournament. And so I'm going to show you on my computer how I do my rating system. And so, uh, yes, this is how we do it. This is how I do my rating system. So I'm going to turn now to my computer here, and again, I don't have a production crew, so this will just have to be how it goes. And so try to get this all angled in there right. Guess it might be better if I angle it this way. Alright, this might be as good as it gets, I guess. Alright, so this is my computer screen, and can't seem to get it all in there, but I guess that's enough of it. Okay, so I have I need to minimize this because I'm videotaping, and just assume that it's all good. And this, I have a folder here for the World Cup. Got to find it. Of course, it moved on me. I have a spinning circle. World Cup. Oh my goodness. This is well, that's what you get with live videos. Where is it? There it is, right there. All right. So I'm going to pull this back up just to see. We're still going? Yes, we are. All right. Maybe I'll move this off to the side so I can still see it. All right. When I get a information for a tournament, I put it in a file like this. And this originally was it had all the game data here. I put this little set of lines here, this dashed line, to separate the games. And so originally in this spot here, there was all the moves of the game, but my rating system doesn't need the moves. So I deleted it. And this was a big file. As you can see, look at all these games. I'll scroll down. Just a ton of games for this because it started out with 128 players, and each player got knocked out after they fought their round. And so after the first, not the first round, the first set of matches, because it's done by matches. So after the first set of matches, there were then 64 players because 64 got eliminated. And so each of these games is the games that took place during the matches. And so in this first game here, it's showing Topalov versus a guy named Adu. And it tells you the rating, White's rating. Topalov was rated 2816, and Adu's rating was 2241. So that's almost a 600-point difference in rating. So, of course, Topalov better win this game. And he also had White. And right here, where does it show it? Here's the result, 1-0. That means White won and Black lost. And so that's what I type into my my file. And so when I'm creating the file, this is the text file for my game, for the when I'm preparing to enter it into my app. And so I put the title of the event, which is the World Cup 2015. There were 128 players, and it's using the ELO rating system. And so 2816, Topalov won. And I put a 1, 2, 3, 4 after each player all the way down to 128. So that way, when I'm going through the games, I'm able to keep track of the players. Because I put in like this game here, player 11, player 12, 1.0. So I have to know who is who. That's why I put those numbers after each of their names. But anyway, that first game, right here, 1, 2, 1.0. And so Adu should be player number 2. And he is. Adu, 2. And so that first game I just showed you between Topalov and Adu is right there. And then the next game in that file is so here's the second game, and it's Adu Topalov. That means Adu played white and Topalov played black. And you can see 0-1. That means Topalov won because black won and Topalov was black. And so going back to that, that's this game here. 2, 1, 0.0. That means black won. This score here, it goes the first player playing white, the second player playing black, and the score that white got. And so in this second one here, Adu was white, player number 2, and Topalov was black, player number 1, and 0.0 means black won this game. So Topalov won the game. And so I go through this whole file after I had stripped out all the games, like this. Some of it got highlighted. And so I just go through all the games. And so then, like, say way down here, this game was between Sam Sevian, and Rajdabov. And white's ELO is 25.56, and black's ELO was 27.38. So Sam Sevian had a real challenge on his hands. Of course, he got eliminated. 2,700 guys usually eliminate their opponents, but sometimes it doesn't always happen. These knockout tournaments, they're not conducive for the ratings. And so that game, got recorded in this list just like all the other ones. This list here. So this is all my game data here. I wonder if I can see that. Am I making any sense at all? Okay, good. So this is all the game data, and it's still recording. So, and you can see that over here on the video. And so that's, I put in all the player ratings and their names. In this particular tournament, I put the numbers also so I could keep track of them. And then this last part right here is the rating of the number 2 player in the world. That's how my rating system is able to keep track of their true performances and adjust it so that there's no rating inflation. And so you can see all this game data here. I'm scrolling down and down and down and down and down and down. And then finally, at the end of the game data, I put -1, -1, -1.0. And that is how I flag my program that the input data is done. And then this part starts the output of my app. And my computer has some issues, likes to not let go of things. And so my app is right here. I kept moving things around here. Main.exe. This is an executable file that I created. And so when I have game data to input into the computer, I'll double click this and I get this pop-up box. And then it opens up with, is this the final run and analysis of this tournament? And if it is, then I'll say yes. If it's not, then I'll put no. Most of the time I put no because I'm still looking at different things. And I'll copy and paste that whole set of data, and then I'll hit Control V here, and it does what we call batch processing. So, but I'm not using the app right now. And when it's done, it'll give me the output file. And then I copy and paste that output file here. And so this was the output of me running the app. And so it does all the analysis that I ask it to. And so ranking number 1 was Karjakin. He won the tournament. He had 23.5 points out of 36 games. and his G score was 217.82, which is a dominating performance. It's not world class because 250 is world class, but he scored in the 200s. Caruana recently at the U.S. Championship just got a little over 200, 205, 208, somewhere in there. So this was better than what Caruana did. The second place was Elginov, and that was shocking to me. I'm like, how can that be? Because Svidler, in fourth place here, showing on my app, Svidler was the one who got second place because he was in the showdown between Karjakin at the end, Svidler. And so, but Elginov, my rating system said, look, Elginov got second place because his G score was higher and his P0 score is higher. Svidler got an 18.39 for the P0 score. Geary scored higher than that with a 26.81, but Elginov did better than both of those with a 31.17. And what I did to corroborate this was Svidler's rating was slightly higher than Elginov's going into the tournament. And after the tournament, Elginov outpaced in rating Svidler. Geary already had substantially higher rating, and so the ELO system was not able to give an unbiased view because of Geary's already high rating. Geary didn't get as much of a boost as Elginov did because he was already higher, so it would have been harder for him to rise above that. So that's the ELO system. It was able to tell me that my results were correct in a limited way. But this is all the breakdown of the players according to my rating system. So the big finding here was that Elginov did so well that he outscored Svidler and Geary. And so anyway, I had communicated with FIDE that Elginov did very well and that he should be given a shot as the wild card in the candidates tournament. And they told me that actually that was not up to FIDE, it was up to the organizer. And they usually pick a local guy. And so they picked Aronian. And so this is this shows all the placings. And then after that I show the greatness scores. And so Karjakin got the highest greatness score at 217. Elginov got 196. Geary, and on down to Zuniga. Julio Grande Zuniga. I hadn't heard of him in a while, but he was in the World Cup and he made the list. He got 100.27. You got to get 100 to make my list. All these other G scores, like this negative 106 and negative 144, all these negative G scores, look at that one, negative 290, depends on the strength of the players that you play and how many games you play. There's a lot that goes into the G score. So that's why these are quite varying. But this is ranked by P0 scores, negative 8.97, 8.97, negative 8.97, negative 8.97. So you can see all these guys are tied on the P0 scores, which is why they're at the bottom of the list. So then after that, then I show the regression line, which is here. So the average rating was 2641.91. And the centroid is 0. It's always 0, comma, whatever the average rating is. And then I go through and I show some the residuals. The residuals are very important because that tells you how far out of spec these guys are. And so look at this. Because a knockout tournament is not conducive to the true ratings, Karjakin's performance rating is almost 3,000, which is, my rating system is very good, but that's not to be believed. That's almost as bad as the official TPRs, the tournament performance ratings. But his initial rating was 2753. He did not do 202.87 above his rating, but that's what my rating system measured it at because of the instability of the players due to the knockout nature of the stuff. But he certainly probably did 2,800, I'm sure. And you can see Elginov got second place. and he did 28.42, which might be believable because he did very well. So he did better than his rating. But just because Karjakin is, we would call that an outlier, I guess. But Geary was almost right in spec, 21 points. So his rating was 27.93, and his performance rating was 28.14, measured by regression. And this is the regression line right here. So what you do is you take the P0 score right here, like 48.71, and you plug it into this regression line equation. Y hat is equal to 2641.91 plus 6.4455 times x. And x is where the P0 score goes. If you compute that for Karjakin, you would get 2955.87. And if you do that for all of these guys, it would give you their performance ratings. That's how they're computed. And so, and then I have a graph of these. Where's my folder? I must have closed it. Not too bright. So we'll go back over here and open it again. World Cup. I guess I did have it open. Oh, here's my folder thing. All right. And so here's my graph of this tournament. Why isn't it showing it to me? There it is. It just took a while. Okay, so you can see all these vertical bands of dots. And that's because the P0 scores, the X coordinate is the P0 score, and the Y coordinate was their initial rating. The highest rated player would have been right here. It's not labeled, but this person didn't win. I wonder who that was. Nakamura was very high. Svidler. Oh, that must have been Topalov. So Topalov didn't do very well. He was probably the highest rated player going into the tournament. This was Nakamura, very high also, above 2,800. He's not above 2,800 right now. Geary was 27.93. We just looked at him. I think Karjakin was 27.53 or something. Maybe here's Karjakin. He won. So the farther to the right you are is, the better performance as measured by the P0 score. And as you go along this way, then you're doing worse. But you could see coming along here, Elginov is the second place. And Geary is third. And then finally you get this pack of players on this vertical band where Svidler just, outdid them. Svidler got fourth. So I put a note here. This tournament failed the ratings goodness and fit test. All knockout tournaments do, because you get this wide band around the line. So the vertical distance of these closer ones aren't too bad. But as you go farther out and farther out, because these players that got eliminated early, their difference between their true rating and their performance rating is really far. And the ratings goodness of fit test measures how well these things fit with the line. And so when you get this wide dispersion, it's going to fail. With a test statistic of chi-squared of 348.488. Compared with the 2013 World Cup, which is another tournament I did, that failed with the nearly identical chi-squared of 352. So you got these 128 guys from 2 years apart, and look at the difference in the dispersion. It's almost identical, which is, a sign of that this is very accurate if they're all playing properly. I have a very spectacular tournament that failed, the Greek Atomic 2008, which that was not a knockout, but it had a really high score like this. And so I believe that was guys tanking on purpose, sandbagging, so that way they could lower their rating and clean up in their next tournament. I didn't investigate, how those players did later on or whatever, but that was something that my rating system measured. So in order to pass, the test statistic for both tournaments needed to be below chi-squared of 154.3. This is a standard. This is called a critical value. Critical values are looked up in a standard chi-squared table from statistics, and it's compared to this computed thing where we take all these vertical distances from the line, and like from here to the line, 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 and so on for all 128 points. And we plug it all into a formula called the chi-squared goodness of fit formula, except the denominator, I changed it from an E for the expected value to 2,500 because I did a bunch of analysis to tell me that that was the value of the denominator it needed to be, so that way I could do all tournaments. Because this is just an elite level tournament, but suppose this set of dots was moved down to guys that were like rated 1,500, well, down, way down, then you'd have a regression line and everything. It still should fail by the same amount, this 348.488. And if you had the E there, then it would be dividing by their expected value. And if this line was lower that passed through them, all these E's would be lower, and it would lower this. Well, dividing by E, dividing by a smaller number, would actually increase your fraction. So it would increase the value of chi-squared, and it shouldn't. And so that's why I put a denominator that was fixed. So anyway, this is the big deal for the World Cup 2015. And I did tell Fight about this. So Eljanov was the man. I mean, Karjakin was the man, but Eljanov should have got a shot into the candidates tournament. And it's too bad that he did not. But Eljanov is a friend of mine on Facebook now. Karjakin is not. Geary's not. I tried to find Nakamura. Wesley So, I don't know if he is or not. But I can say Eljanov is. So of all these guys, yeah, a lot of them, it's hard to get them to be friends. Oh, I'm a friend with Califman, Alexander Califman. He's a friend of mine on Facebook. So I'm making some progress. But anyway, here's my there's my big graph. And so when I'm doing these tournaments, I look them up. Oh, that's because I put the names after. So I only put 2 in there. All right. So I start with this original file that I downloaded off the internet. From there, I create my text file, which I already have open right here. And then I put that input data, and then it gives me the output data, and I haven't gone through all the output data yet. So we'll go through some more of that. So then these are all the residuals, and I have the program flag when somebody's more than 100 points out. So this Grishuk, he was more than 100 points out. He's an elite player, obviously, a 2700 guy, but he performed at the 2670 level. So my rating system said, hey, this guy's out of spec. And so then guess I don't have word wrap on. I couldn't see that text. All right. So then here, this word wrap must have been not correct. So, but now you can see it in its normal form. You can see all the text. So then I do this is where the goodness of fit is, and that's where the 154 is. So this is a little part of the output that does this goodness of fit, and that tells you whether or not the tournament passed or failed. And the goodness of fit test is really important, because if it does fail, then that gives somebody that's looking at this the ability to adjust ratings, but not for a knockout tournament. It failed, but it's so the 348 failed, and the cutoff was that, but you don't get to adjust any ratings because it was a knockout tournament. All right, the next thing here, I think I bumped my camera, so let me see where I'm at. All right, it's still good. So then I have an output of all the players and their after ratings. And so the PRA after is the second to the last column. So here's his performance rating, and here's what my rating system is measuring him after. So he came into the tournament, Karjakin, with 2782, and my rating system is measuring him at 2794 after. No, he came in with 2753. This is the ELO before. It's not lined up because some of these players have long names and stuff. And I don't format the output. I mean, I probably should, but it'd take a lot of work. So the ELO rating that he had was 2753. His ELO after is 2782. The PRA after, well, that's my rating system, was 2794. So Karjakin would have almost been a 2800 player after this World Cup. And his performance rating, of course, was in the stratosphere, as we talked about. Aljanov started out at 2723. ELO said that he got to 2756 and compared that with Svidler, 2727 and 2723. So they were 4 points away in their initial ratings, Svidler and Aljanov. And the ELO after was 2748 for Svidler, and the ELO after for Aljanov was 2756. So he started out 4 points below, and he wound up 8 points higher. So he outdid Svidler, according to the ELO system. My rating system said that Svidler should have been, he should have gained up to 2743.93, so 2744, and Aljanov 2753. So it's closer with my rating system. It wouldn't have said that it was quite as big of a jump with my rating system, but the ELO system measured it as that. And so, so this thing you can compare and contrast all the players, you know, with their before and after ratings with the two systems with this part of the output. And then don't I have? I guess this was done before I had the what was it called? I can't remember now. Getting old. I have a part of the program in here, but this one was done. I guess I had this output done before I put in the other feature. Oh, the choke test. I don't see the choke test in here. All right, well, I guess I have the input data still. So I'm going to see what the choke test says. So I need to show you, I guess, fully how this works. So I highlight all this input data, like I'm doing. Down and down and down. This tournament's so big. There's so much data. There, finally. So now it's highlighted, and so then we Control C to copy it. Then I'm going to put it into my app. This. Minimize. There's the app. Is this the final run? No. What is the name of the tournament? That was the top of the file. So Control V. We run it. Press a 1. And then I go over here. I should have a analysis file somewhere. I move so much stuff. Where is it? Analysis. Analysis. There it is. Nope. That was another analysis that I wanted to save the file. If I just keep the analysis file and I add to it and I put more stuff in there, then if I run another tournament, then I lose it. So that's why like analysis GR. So that was an analysis one I wanted to keep. Analysis. Analysis, right there in the corner. All right, so the choke test will be in here. Choke test. So I had done that before I installed this new feature into my app. So here's the choke test. And it's telling me that the favorite was Topalov, and it was a choke by 10 places. So I go through this. Well, first, let's see. The choke test. This next test takes us into some murky waters. I will call it the choke test. The onus is on the highest rated player as the favorite to win the tournament. If this does not happen, is it a choke? To answer this, we must first test to see if there is a positive linear correlation. If there is, then the favorite needs to win, or it is a choke. If there is not a positive linear correlation, then it is anyone's ball game. The favorite may or may not win in this case, but it will not be considered a choke. If the favorite wins, when there is a positive linear correlation, we could say that he or she rose to the occasion. All right, so this is a statistical test. You can either test for a linear correlation or a positive linear correlation or a negative linear correlation. It makes most sense to test for a positive linear correlation because as the initial ratings increase, we should expect the performance to increase, not the other way around. And so that's why we do a positive linear correlation. So rho is the Greek letter rho. This shows if you have it less than or equal to 0, that's no positive linear correlation. Strictly greater than 0 is a positive linear correlation. Having the equal to part in the null hypothesis, that has to be the way it is in statistics, so I have it all set up according to Hoyle. And then I compute my test statistic from the program, and the critical value is looked up. It's on the t-table. This is not a chi-squared test. This is a t-test. It's a different kind of statistical test. So I have it look up the critical value for the t, and I have it compute the test statistic. And so here's the degrees of freedom, df, n minus 2. This is all standard statistical stuff. I put it into the app, and it does it all for me automatically. So the degrees of freedom is 126. So with all that information, we're able to get a critical value. The degrees of freedom and a t-test. You also need to know what type of test it is. Here it's the arrow points to the type of test, so it's a right tail test. Oh, I wrote it right here. It's a right tail test, and because of this, the arrow, this like greater than or less than, the arrow tip points to what type of test it is because it's telling you where the tail is. And so all this stuff is set up, so that gives you the critical value, and the alpha is 0.05. That's the other thing you need. So alpha, right tail test, and the degrees of freedom, that tells you what the critical value needs to be under those circumstances that you look up in a standard table. And it's that. In the test statistic, you have to jump through some hoops to compute all that, but the program did it, and it came up with that. So it's greater than this, which means it's in the tail. So that means it fails. So that means there is a positive linear correlation at alpha equals 0.05. Because of that, we can say Topalov choked, and he choked 10 places. And then what's this last part? Oh, we already went over that part. That's the ratings afterwards. So the choke test was missing. And then here's a final summary. The ratings goodness and fit test failed. Players with large residuals tells you to, because it failed, then my program outputs the advice. So the players with the large flags are the candidates to replace their initial ratings with their performance ratings for this tournament. Well, my app doesn't know if it was a knockout or not. I suppose I should put that in there. Because this was a knockout tournament, we're not going to make any adjustments. Then rerun the app. No, we're not going to make any adjustments. You only get to do this correction phase one time. No, because this is a knockout tournament. But, if this was a round robin or a Swiss, then this is what you would have done. Replace any or all of the high residuals now based on your investigation and knowledge about the players. When the tournament is rerun, its level of fitting will be improved, if not actually getting it to pass. Either way, at that point, the results are finalized and certified. Make notes as to who got a quantum correction and why, so that they can be subjected to review by others. And also the test of time. Over time, if they show, that they merited that change, then that would be that. And so that's the World Cup. The big news is Eljanov got second place. So now we'll come back to me. All right. I appreciate your time today. Glad you watched. I'll do other tournaments, but I wanted to get that one done because Karjakin went on to win the candidates tournament. And the previous time around, he was also in the candidates and he got second place. Uh, Anand won the candidates tournament the time before and he got to face off against Carlson and lost to him as the challenger. And the time before that, Anand was the champion and he lost to Carlson, who had won the candidates tournament. So this time Karjakin won the candidates tournament. So there's a history of these things. And I'll show you more tournaments as I go along. So anyway, that's my rating system. It's called the PRA, the Performance Rating Algorithm. And I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day.